Welcome to our U.S. briefing show. Today, we're diving into a heated situation in Los Angeles where President Donald Trump has deployed 2,000 National Guard troops to handle immigration protests. Despite opposition from California's governor, this move aims to curb what Trump calls lawlessness, but critics worry it might escalate tensions further. The protests erupted after immigration raids, leading to clashes, arrests, and a fierce debate over federal versus local authority. Stay tuned for more details. In other news, U.S. senators have reintroduced a bill to make healthcare easier for seniors, streamlining Medicare Advantage with electronic prior authorization and better protections, an effort to reduce red tape and improve access. Meanwhile, some interesting international chatter suggests Canada might not become the 51st U.S. state, but there's a proposal for it to join the EU, which has supporters and skeptics alike. Finally, Australia faces tough choices about its defense future, balancing Aukus support with the need for independent military capabilities amidst rising regional tensions. Please continue to watch for all the details. The Yahoo US article vividly illustrates the tense and complex political landscape surrounding President Donald Trump's decision to deploy 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles amidst ongoing immigration protests. Trump's move, which defies the California Governor Gavin Newsom's objections, echoes past instances where the president activated the military to quell unrest, such as during the 2020 protests after George Floyd's death and the 1992 Los Angeles riots. The legal framework for such actions is murky. The law cited allows the president to federalize National Guard troops under specific circumstances like rebellion or invasion, but it also emphasizes that orders should come through state governors. The article underscores that Trump's troops will primarily serve a supporting role, protecting ICE officers rather than engaging in law enforcement, raising concerns about potential escalation and the use of force, especially without invoking the Insurrection Act. Historically, the National Guard has been mobilized during pivotal moments, from desegregation protests to riots, demonstrating its role as both a tool of federal authority and a symbol of civil unrest. The Yahoo US piece further details the escalation of federal intervention in Los Angeles, where the Trump administration's aggressive stance on immigration enforcement has led to mass raids and violent clashes. The deployment of troops was announced amid protests that turned confrontational, with protesters throwing Molotov cocktails and engaging in tense standoffs with law enforcement outside detention centers. California leaders, including Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, condemned the federal actions, accusing the Trump administration of sowing chaos and inflaming tensions for political spectacle. The article vividly captures the chaos of the protests, with tear gas, arrests, and heated rhetoric flying back and forth, highlighting the deep divisions over immigration policy and federal authority. The administration's narrative frames these actions as necessary to restore law and order, while critics see them as an overreach that undermines civil liberties and local governance. The U.S. News article shifts focus to domestic policy initiatives, spotlighting bipartisan efforts to improve healthcare and energy policies. Senator John Fetterman and colleagues reintroduced the Improving Seniors Timely Access to Care Act, aiming to streamline the burdensome prior authorization process for Medicare Advantage plans, thus allowing providers to focus more on patient care. Meanwhile, Representative Dan Moiser championed the Energy Choice Act, a bill designed to protect Americans' access to diverse and affordable energy sources by preventing local bans on fuels like natural gas and propane. The article also highlights Pennsylvania's legislative progress, including the approval of drone research agreements and reforms to cyber charter schools, emphasizing a broader push for responsible innovation and education transparency. These initiatives reflect a focus on enhancing efficiency, expanding consumer choice, and fostering economic growth within the state and across the nation. The Guardian reports on Joachim Streit's ambitious campaign advocating for Canada to join the European Union, a notion rooted in shared values and mutual benefits. Streit, a German MEP, envisions Canada as a European-like nation due to its political, cultural, and geographical ties, despite the technical hurdles posed by EU treaties. His idea is gaining traction amid global shifts, with some media and polls revealing Canadian interest, yet official EU stance remains cautious, citing legal and geographic constraints. Streit's efforts include proposing exchange programs and deepening ties, viewing this as a symbolic step towards greater integration, even if full membership remains aspirational. The South China Morning Post discusses Australia's precarious defense situation amid rising tensions with China and the strategic implications of its alliance with the US. Despite decades of underinvestment and bureaucratic inertia, Australian military leaders now warn that the nation's defense readiness is critically lacking, especially in advanced capabilities like nuclear submarines and missile defenses. The Aukus Pact and U.S. pressure have prompted calls for increased military spending, yet political hesitations persist. Analysts warn that Australia's current budget and strategic choices threaten its ability to maintain a credible defence, risking a cannibalization of capabilities and a reliance on U.S. support, with some experts advocating for a more independent and resilient national defence. CBS News' Scott Pelley emphasizes the importance of courage and free speech in America's democracy amid a climate of fear and political pressure. Drawing parallels to the McCarthy era, Pelley warns that silence in the face of government intimidation endangers the nation's core values. He defends journalism's vital role, criticizing recent efforts by the Trump administration to undermine media independence, including lawsuits and attempts to silence critics. Pelley's stance underscores that a free press is essential for democracy, and his call for bravery echoes Edward R. Thuro's historic stand against oppression. His remarks highlight ongoing concerns about the erosion of truth, the dangers of censorship, and the necessity of standing firm to preserve American ideals. Nikkei Asia vividly captures the tense atmosphere in Los Angeles as the city becomes a battleground over immigration enforcement. The scene is charged with emotion and defiance, as protesters, many waving Mexican flags and masking their faces, confront federal agents in riot gear amid a backdrop of overturned shopping carts and exploding tear gas canisters. The Trump administration's decision to deploy 2,000 National Guard troops to quell what they label as riots and looters has only intensified the chaos, with authorities detaining protesters and escalating tensions. The protests are a stark reflection of the deep divide in a city with a substantial Hispanic and foreign-born population, standing against the aggressive immigration crackdown led by ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. Democratic leaders like Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass condemn the raids as terrorizing communities, while Trump's officials dismiss the protests as insurrection, framing the confrontations as a fight to uphold law and order. The images of armed federal agents storming through LA streets and the stories of arrests at Home Depot stores and warehouses highlight the dramatic clash between federal enforcement and local communities, underscoring the fierce resistance against the administration's hardline immigration policies. Yahoo US provides a perspective that emphasizes the political and personal stakes involved in the Los Angeles protests, with Donald Trump's Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem warning protesters that law enforcement will pursue the fullest extent of the law. Meanwhile, White House Deputy Stephen Miller describes the demonstrations as violent insurrection, framing the unrest as a direct challenge to U.S. sovereignty. The article underscores the widespread anger among immigrant communities and their allies, exemplified by the arrest of union official David Huerta during a protest at a federal detention center, who condemned the treatment of workers and community members as unjust. The deployment of the National Guard and the aggressive police response, including tear gas and flashbangs, reflect the administration's resolve to crack down on illegal immigration, even as critics argue that these tactics threaten to destabilize local communities and violate basic principles of safety and justice. The narrative vividly portrays a nation on the brink, with the Trump administration's relentless push for mass deportations clashing sharply with the voices of resistance from those fighting to protect their communities from what they see as unjust and aggressive enforcement measures. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.